Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is May 30th, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1955, the inspirational Jake the Snake Roberts. 1970, the hardcore legend himself, Supreme. And last but not least, 1988, the WWF is going to miss those conga lines. No way, Jose. And we're going to keep that positivity train a-rolling. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for May 30th. Jumping in the Wayback Machine and going all the way to 1925. Joe Stetcher defeats Stan Zbyszko for the world's heavyweight title in St. Louis, Missouri. It marks Stetcher's third world title reign, but it is not without controversy, as Wayne Munn, who Zbyszko had won the title from, was still recognized as world champion in Illinois and Chicago. Ed Strangler Lewis would later beat Stetcher and Munn to unify the world title. Making a giant leap all the way to 1943, Joe Silva defeats Adolfo Beneles to win the Mexican national lightweight title in Mexico City, Mexico. 2 years later, in 1945, Marshall Estep defeats Ken Fenlon for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title in Toronto, Iowa. Making a quick stop in the 50s, 1956, we see Killer Kowalski defeat Yvonne Robert in Montreal, Quebec for the Montreal World Heavyweight title. Grooving into the 60s, 1964, Bobby Steele defeats Chick Pruve to win the European middleweight title in Manchester, England. Our last stop in the 60s, 1966, Herb Welch and Al Castello defeat Carl and Eric Von Brunner in a tournament final to win the vacant Mid-American version of the NWA World Tag Team titles in Memphis, Tennessee. The title had been vacant since February when Antonio Inoki, who held the title with Hiro Matsuda, suffered a broken leg. Grabbing my bell bottoms and going to the 70s, 1973, Tony Guerrera and Haystacks Calhoun defeat Professor Pat Tanaka and Mr. Fuji for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Tag Team titles in Pennsylvania. This is the first tag title for Guerrera, who would go on to hold the same title with three other partners, Dean Ho, Larry Zbyszko, and twice with Rick Martel. Our second stop in the 70s, 1978, Antonio Inoki defeats Andre the Giant by countout in Osaka, Japan to win the first annual New Japan Pro Wrestling MSG League. Grabbing my boombox and going to the 80s, 1981, Sweet Ebony Diamond defeats Greg Valentine for the NWA television title in Charlotte, North Carolina. Skipping ahead 2 years to 1983, Little Tokyo defeats Cowboy Lang in Vancouver for the NWA World Midgets title, beginning his third reign and ending Lang's second. Moving ahead 1 year to 1984, Angelo Mosca ends Mike Rotundo's second run with the Florida version of the NWA Southern Heavyweight title after only 9 days in Tampa, Florida. 1986, a tournament was held to crown the first ever Universal Wrestling Federation champion in Houston, Texas. The UWF was the new name for Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling, which had grown to expand to include more cities outside of its original Louisiana and Oklahoma territory. Prior to the tournament, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the reigning Mid-South North American champion, vacated his title, as the UWF title would be the top championship for the company. In the tournament final, Terry Gordy defeated Hacksaw Duggan. Prior to the match, one-man gang attacked Duggan, ramming him into the ring post and leaving him a bloody mess. Gordy and Michael Hayes, having no allegiance to Duggan or Devastation Inc., the heel stable one-man gang was a part of, watched the attack without getting involved. Gordy then easily defeated Duggan to win the title. And last but not least, 1996, Sean Morley, aka Val Venus, defeats El Bronco for the WWC television title in Puerto Rico. This reign would actually last nearly 3 years, as the title was not officially vacated until March 3rd, 1999. despite his working for the WWF since 1997. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for May 30th. I'm the Eclectic Gentleman, Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.